In this video, we're computing the drift velocity of electrons in a conductor. So in the picture, I've shown a little section of a wire. I have the current magnitude I labeled going to the right, and then I'm showing the electrons moving to the left. That corresponds to a rightward current because electrons are negatively charged. The picture makes it look like every electron has exactly the same speed, and actually what we're talking about is the average of a statistical distribution of speeds. At any moment in time, some electrons will be nearly stationary, having just collided with an atom in the material, and some electrons will be moving very fast, and what we're talking about is the average of all that. The last variable in our setup that needs some explaining is this little n. That's the number of free electrons per unit volume, so electrons per cubic meter that are actually allowed to move around in the material. And when we get into a specific example, what we ordinarily assume is that each atom is capable of sharing one electron. So we say in our example that each copper atom has one electron that's so loosely bound it can be freely shared from atom to atom to atom, and that electron can move along in the material over great distances. So how do we get a handle on the drift velocity? What we're going to do is mark one position in the wire, draw a cross-sectional area A, and then watch electrons pass that cross-sectional area for a time delta t. And what happens is that traces out a volume of electrons, and then we just need to count how many electrons are in there, and we should have a handle on the problem. Notice that I've written the length of that little cylinder as drift velocity multiplied by the time increment. That's just distance equals speed times time. Now the volume of that little cylinder is just given by the area of the base times the length. And because little n is the number of free electrons per unit volume, I can take little n and multiply it by volume to get the number of electrons in there, and I'm going to call that capital N. Now if I take the number of electrons and multiply by the charge per electron, I should get the total amount of charge that's passed through this cross-section of A in a time of delta t. Here I'm ignoring the sign of the charge on the electron. I'm just purely working in magnitudes here, and I used a QE for that elementary charge of 1.6 times 10 to the negative 19 coulombs per electron. Dividing both sides by delta t, I recognize something on the left, delta Q over delta t. That's the current, and on the right, have QE little n A VD. And again, I'm going to replace delta Q over delta T with I. That's the coulombs per second current flowing through the wire. So let's solve for VD. I just divide by QE times N times A, and I get my drift velocity. So there's the general result. But it's a little bit deceptive because finding that little n, the number of free electrons per cubic meter in the material, is not that simple. And we're going to figure that out when we talk about our specific example with a copper wire. So in our example, we're asked to compute the electron drift velocity for a 12 gauge copper wire. And I looked it up this morning, and that's a diameter of 2.06 millimeters, carrying a 15 amp current. So let's just take care of the low-hanging fruit here. If I look at my drift velocity formula, I have the current, I have the charge on an electron. I can easily get the cross-sectional area. That would be pi r squared. But I could replace r with d over 2, and when I square it, I get 1/4 pi diameter squared. Converting to meters, I get 3.333 times 10 to the negative 6th square meters cross-sectional area. Now the hard part is finding the number of free electrons per unit volume. And what we do here is assume that each atom has one electron that's loosely bound enough to share. It's a good first approximation. So really what I'm looking for is the number of atoms in a cubic meter. And as you might suspect, that's related to the density, the number of kilograms in a cubic meter. So here's my plan. I'm going to take the density, that's the mass per volume, the number of kilograms in a cubic meter, and then I'm going to multiply that by the number of copper atoms per kilogram. The kilograms will cancel, and I'll get a number of atoms per cubic meter. That's what I'm after. So we've already got the density, but I need the number of atoms per kilogram, or the other way around, the number of kilograms per atom. And that gets into the atomic mass. So I looked up the atomic mass of copper, and I got it in atomic mass units, 63.546 atomic mass units. Roughly speaking, an atomic mass unit is about the mass of a proton. Well, I've got to relate to kilograms here. So I'm going to multiply by a conversion factor. 1.661 times 10 to the negative 27 kilograms per atomic mass unit, and those atomic mass units will cancel out. And I find out that the mass of one copper atom is about 1.055 times 10 to the negative 25 kilograms. So that actually takes care of this conversion factor. Having the mass for one atom is just as good as having the number of atoms per kilogram. And I plug in to get my little n. So I take the density of copper, that's 8,960 kilograms per cubic meter. And then I multiply by this conversion factor. One atom for every 1.055 times 10 to the negative 25 kilograms. And I get 8.493 times 10 to the 28th. My surviving units here are atoms per cubic meter. Now that I have little n, I can plug everything into our drift velocity formula. In the numerator, I've got the current, which was 15 amps. In the denominator, I have the elementary charge, 1.6 times 10 to the negative 19 coulombs. Little n, we just found that, 8.493 times 10 to the 28th atoms per cubic meter. Again, at 1 free electron per atom, that tells us the number of electrons that are free per cubic meter. And then my cross-sectional area, 3.333 times 10 to the negative 6 square meters. And when I run the numbers on this, I get 3.31 times 10 to the negative 4 meters per second. And if I multiply 10 to the negative 4 by 10, I get 10 to the negative 3. I then divide the coefficient out in front by 10 to make up for it. I have 0.331 times 10 to the negative 3, or 0.331 millimeters per second. So this has always been pretty surprising to me. 15 amps is a pretty sizable current, and the electrons are only moving 1/3 of a millimeter per second on average in the wire. There's just so many of them that they can deliver a lot of charge really fast. If you find the physics content on Zach's Lab helpful, click on the Zach's Lab logo on the right to browse playlists and subscribe to the channel. I produce over 100 new videos per month, and subscribing is the easiest way to find new content. Thanks for watching.